Kia ora, beautiful people of the world. Oh, my breathing is shaky today. Just sharing the live. Let's give you guys, give anyone give anyone and everyone a few minutes to come on and allow you to come and share this space with me. If you are new here, my name is Madeline Lee. I am from Rigel Stigma, and I am already feeling very shaky and very nervous coming to talk to you guys about this today. If you are joining me and you would like to say kia ora, morena, even though it's the afternoon, I would really love to know that you are here. I'm shaky and that's what I feel like inside my heart today. I just came off a coaching call with my amazing mentor, and it's really made me want to come and share today some things I've been learning lately. What did I name this live? Is any of the trauma, baggage, emotions, shame, unworthiness, unlovableness, even yours, mine, or anyone else's? So if you don't know, if you have only just started following me, my name's Madeline Lee. I'm from Rigel Stigma. I'm 28 and I was diagnosed with genital herpes, herpes simplex virus type 2, genitally, in 2019. It was my painful to power purpose. It really broke me, and it's what death and rebirthed me into my life purpose and everything that I do now, how I show up, and all of the things. And it's interesting because herpes doesn't really come up, I suppose, as a challenge or a worry in my life anymore. Like, I kind of forget that I have it. I kind of forget that I have herpes sometimes. If you don't know much about herpes, I am going to do a live. I did say this week, but it's got a bit busy, so over the next week or so, next one coming, I am going to do a live specifically all around herpes, the virus, the stigma, and information about it there. But today, I suppose, what I want to talk into is in my session with my coach just now. I haven't really needed, since I've been working with this coach, I haven't really needed any support around herpes, self-worth, stigma, shame, acceptance, love of myself around the label or diagnosis or illness or whatever you want to call it of the herpes virus. But I've been doing some meditation, and I've been working through all sorts, like literally, like when we heal something and it, next layer. I've been healing so much and so many different things. There's been so much going on, and even speaking here, I'm like, oh, how do I stay focused? How do I stay focused on one thing? And I may be jumping all around the place, and I will eventually get to the point that I wanted to come and share today. But I'm a bit nervous, and I'm actually a little bit scared about sharing it. not for myself, but I have little bits of fear of how my shares may impact others and their emotions and how they feel about this, what it strikes in them, what it brings up to the surface for other people in my personal life and for others in their own personal life that I do not even know. So we talked this week a little bit anyway, me and my coach, about a few challenging things, and I was diving into a little bit deeper around trying to understand patterns, repetition patterns in generational stuff about things such as like sexual abuse, and if like the energy or the pain, the resentment, the deeper layers of emotions, if they can be passed down, even if with or without physical actions of sexual abuse being passed down over time, if that makes sense. So started to do some meditating, and there was a couple of experiences throughout my nursing career when I was training. There was a young person that really their situation in their life and their experiences really triggered within me. I can't exactly share that because of confidentiality and her privacy, but it really still rung clear to me, and I've had a lot of stuff coming up learning about how repetition, how cycles and repetition stem through and pour through generational layers lately. And I feel so funny talking about it, because if you had talked to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I hate generational stuff. Generational stuff means nothing. I don't like history. Like literally, I remember when I was a teenager at school, and when we had to like a history class or something, I would just get so shitty. I would just get so grumpy. I didn't want to hear a bar of it. And now I have such a different learning that I am learning at the moment. So anyway, repetition of things such as, for example, sexual abuse, and maybe something physical may not have stemmed down, but maybe the physical side of it has halted or stopped or had an end to it or been healed or sealed off in some formal way. But my questions with my coach was like, can the energy still flow down? Like, can the energy still stem down through the energy or the feelings of the emotions and the hurt or the pain, or like the embodiment of that sexual trauma of some form be able to be passed down energetically through and into like not personality traits, but characteristics within us, like stem down, if that makes sense. So we had some deep conversations this week, because these questions I didn't really know where they came from at first, and I still am trying to kind of understand it. And through our one-on-one messaging throughout the week, my coach just said, she was like, remind me to talk to you on because we have a call once a week, can you please remember to bring up like your herpes diagnosis and like your stuff around your herpes situation and your experiences and things. And so we just had our call, and and it's this magical book that my coach recommended to me, The Secret Language of Your Body. And I'm just going to read out to you. So this book is incredible. I'm going to read out to you the deeper, I suppose, causation or meaning or connection to the label or diagnosis or illness of genital herpes. Genital herpes. So I'm going to read it to you now. Genital herpes. Attack on yourself. Feeling rejected, abandoned, unworthy, and unlovable. Carrying enormous guilt about sexuality. Anger about how you have been treated. Anger about how you have been treated. Belief that you are sinful or need to be punished. Feeling dirty, ashamed, humiliated, dishonored, and violated. Just going to read that one more time. Genital herpes. Attack on yourself. Feeling rejected, abandoned, unworthy, and unlovable. Carrying enormous guilt about sexuality. Anger about how you have been treated. Belief that you are sinful or need to be punished. Feeling dirty, ashamed, humiliated, dishonored, and violated. So this might be possibly, depending on where you are in your journey, depending on how much you know and what you know, this book and the stuff that I am diving deeper into, stuff by meaning intuitive healing, spiritual healing, inner core healing, proper fucking facing the causation or the core of where our illnesses and our trauma and our shit has come from, our physical ailments as well. I'm yet to find a way that I find it very hard to explain everything that I'm learning, but I'm going to try because it may enlighten you to a little something. That I believe through all of this work that all of our physical ailments are created through our mind, through our belief system, through our self-talk, through our thoughts. And then just lately through reading that genital herpes statement or whatever you want to call it, I don't even know if they, to me, what I understand is that they're like a core causation. Those things that I've just read out is like a core contributor or causation of the core emotion that the physical ailment has stemmed from, if that makes sense. I'm still learning, so be gentle on me. So I live with the herpes virus in my system. Apparently you can't get rid of it. Most of society says you can't get rid of it, you have it for life. And my coach asked me today when we read out that genital herpes list of things. And then she asked me, some questions. She asked me some questions around, are these things mine? Like, did I create them? Are they, not in these words, but my perception and understanding, like, are these things mine? Or are they things that have been passed down and in my perception or my words bled through generational layers and passed from one person to the next person to the next person to the next layer to the next layer. And again, it's like feeling rejected, feeling abandoned, feeling unworthy, feeling unloved. And I'm like, I look around, I'm like, does anyone not experience that in our world? Like, do I know anyone? Yeah, some people would say, no, I feel loved. Yeah, but even a sense of denial or avoidance. I feel like I look around and I'm like it's everywhere. I feel like in some way or form, pretty much everyone in some part or time of their journey has felt some form of abandonment, some form of unworthiness, some form of rejection, the shame. And attacking on ourselves. The first one, attack on yourself. I'm like, but there's such conflict, there's such contradiction, because I know my worth, I know I'm worthy, and at the same time I'm like, but do I treat myself that way? Yep, now much more increased or improved, but back in myself, back in those versions of me. When I was initially diagnosed with genital herpes, I think, was I attacking myself in like a backwards way or like in an unconscious way because I didn't feel enough? And then there's another one in there, carrying enormous guilt about sexuality. I'm still unpacking that and trying to understand, I suppose, what, unpick that in myself. I'm now 28. I lost my virginity very, very young, like 12, 13. And I actually had some, I suppose, I don't know how to describe it, some challenging occurrences around like that was probably looked at or frowned upon as super young, which I look now, I'm like, oh yeah, it is young, but does it matter? But then does it hold guilt? Does it hold shame? I lost my virginity, and then I think from the age I'd had like sex with 2 people, and the talk or the gossip within my township, being a young person, and as being like a teen too, you think about like when you're a teenager and you lose your virginity and things like that, and the name calling or the assumption or the judgment, or because society doesn't talk about these things. Like, there's some amazing people I follow that talk about this stuff deeper and deeper and deeper, which I'm so inspired by, and it is so incredible. But when you're a teen, and it must be hard, very hard for parents in our society, because a lot of the time I get, you hear things like the parents like, oh, I don't want to have those conversations because I don't want to encourage that for my teen or for my young person. At the same time, I'm like, cool, do we just put it in a box and not speak about it? And then when it happens, or when our young person ends up with an STI like genital herpes, or when we have a 13 or 14-year-old that becomes pregnant, whether it was with their young partner or whether it was in a sexual abuse scenario, or whatever the circumstances are. I deeply think that communication is number one. Like, communicate, even though I've gone way off topic from generational layers. But that is the wondrous thing, the beautiful thing about this intuitive healing and conversations and creative flow that comes through us when we do this work. My ear just popped. It's on my ear, like. I unwinded into that space because of the statement in that book right there saying carrying enormous guilt about sexuality. So where did we start picking up feeling that guilt about sexuality? Where did it stem from? Where did it start from? And you start unpacking the layers, and really you could look at it as, oh, I was just being a teen. I was being a teenager. I was hanging out with my boyfriend and la like I was just exploring life. I was just living life as a young person. This is just one example. I suppose it's coming up strong for me with herpes, with sexual stuff. And like, I read that genital herpes thing that I just read to you guys, and the feeling of dirty, ashamed, humiliated, dishonored, violated. Like, some of those, I'm like, it doesn't even have to be just related to sexuality. It could be, like feeling ashamed. It could be anything, feeling ashamed of lying. As children, as little people, or as adults, we feel ashamed if we do a certain something, lie to someone, or we fail them, or we don't pull through. We can feel a sense of shame, or if we're diagnosed with some label or put in a box of some sort. There is so many layers, and I'm looking now, I'm like, oh, so I'm holding myself back a little bit today because I worry and I have fear, and I'm scared of the impact it may have on some loved ones in my life. But I also believe and feel like this stuff is so fucking important to talk about. And I feel like it's worth talking about. Some stuff came up around my not enoughness, and I've done a lot of work on my not enoughness. And in one breath, I know that I'm always enough, and I know that. And it's interesting that family is like the hardest thing I think we all go through. but I feel like not many of us talk about it. Well, we do, but behind closed doors. And something I noticed as an unconscious is I often have stuff come up in my mind around not feeling enough for my dad. And it's not a blame thing. It's just more of a fact that often in my life and the things I do and my purpose and my validating of my own worth to myself, my dad often comes up, that like, when will I be enough? And we talk occasionally, me and my dad. He's incredible. He's incredible, my dad. But very often it comes, I've been shifting a lot of money stuff with my coach, with energy, with spirit, with business, with deservingness of money. And my coach asked me the other day, she said, when will be enough money though, Maddie? And is the money what? Dig a little deeper. I can't even remember the questions, but talking about like, when will be enough money, and is that a validation to yourself? How much money do you want? When will you be satisfied with a certain amount of money? Or is it for someone else? And then I kind of burst into tears and I was like, well, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, if I earn enough money, will that be enough for me to be enough for my dad? Or will that show my worthiness? Will that show my enoughness? And this isn't actually about my dad. This is about me, and the reason I am sharing it is because I feel and understand the folds of generational ness folding upon each other, and folding and folding and folding. And I'm learning this new understanding that, you know, I'm talking about money and it's about the money, but it's not really about the money. It's about the self-worthness underneath, the enoughness. Will I ever be enough? If I were enough. And seeing how it folds and folds and folds down generations, like, I don't know, does my dad feel enough? Did my dad feel enough for my granddad? And my beautiful granddad that I never met, he took his own life. Did he feel enough? Did you feel enough, granddad? Like, did you feel enough? The layer above you, my great-granddad, or the granddad above, the other generational layer above. Did you ever feel enough? Were you ever enough? Did you feel these deep layers of rejection or abandonment or unworthiness? 10 layers and people and souls before that and before that and before that and before that. Did they carry some enormous guilt around sexuality? Was there other layers and other pieces that just kept pouring down like this. I've been aware of some of this layeringness for a while, but I haven't understood it to this new shift in space that I am experiencing at the moment. It is big, man. Fuck, I can't wait till there is a school created where they teach this shit and they teach people how to break those cycles and they bring it to your awareness, and we start to work on breaking those cycles and healing those cycles within, like, it's no one's fault. Like, I just folded back in my coaching session around this, like, read this genital herpes thing out with my coach, and she folded back into some stuff with my dad, and about how do I think that he may have felt in certain situations, like with my granddad taking his own life, so my dad's dad. And she asked some questions like, how do you think your dad felt when he experienced those things? Do you feel like maybe he felt some of these things that you feel now that have contributed or been a piece of, like, this herpes diagnosis and this generational bit that's folded and folded and folded and folded, if that makes sense? And then it started like this spiral of me that I'm like, oh, so if Granddad felt this certain way to not be here anymore, how did he feel? How did my granddad feel all the time? And then where did Granddad feel from that? Like, what parts of his pieces of his life and the people that streamed down from him, and the ones before and the ones before and the ones before, like, it is no one's fault. It is not a blame thing. Is it even like, am I, because I feel like it's like a reflection, like it streams down, like it pours down through, well, they can, like, picture is like a waterfall of these things and these emotions and shame and this resentment of self and this anger and attack of self, you know, like spreading all the way down all the lines and all the things. I'm like, are these even my emotions? Are these even my thing? Is any of this stuff attack on yourself, feeling rejected, abandoned, unworthy, unloved, carrying enormous guilt about sexuality, anger about how you have been treated, belief that you are sinful and need to be punished, feeling dirty, ashamed, humiliated, dishonored, and violated? Like, is this mine or is this not really mine? Like, yeah, I've chosen to continue it on because I've embodied it, and then it's like become awareness to me. And I'm only just learning how to unwind it and crack it the fuck open now, and to heal it and to release it. But it's like when it becomes our awareness, it becomes our responsibility. It may not be our emotions. It may not be our stuff. It may be like something that has, you know, poured or leaked all the way through. Could have been folded up to some of these things that possibly my dad felt, which then folds up into possibly my granddad felt, and then folds up into the next person and the next soul and the next soul and the next person before that and before that. I'm like, where did it even start? Did it really just start all the way back and then just fold all the way down until now? And I'm now here in this reality, and now I'm living these things, and it's poured through and come through on between me. And I was like, oh, so is this my dad's stuff? Is this my dad's stuff that hasn't healed for him, that he hasn't found a way to heal through? Is this my granddad's stuff? Is this before and before and before and before? Because that's, as far as I know, is only my granddad. Because that's all I know. And I'm like, oh, but that doesn't mean it's anyone's fault. I was like, is this even my dad's though? I'm like looking at this genital woman, like, oh yeah, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, but is that must mean like that it's not my dad's, that it was the person before and the soul before and the soul before. But is it even that, or is this something we've externally created through stigmas, through judgments, through conditioning, through a fucking caged mindset, through not knowing how to unpack these layers, not knowing how to have these really hard conversations. Not having the awareness or the skills or the knowing, and we're only just starting to learn about these things. Or maybe it's been around, I think about my old self, maybe it's been around for a real long time, but I'm learning about this. I know there's definitely some magical people in my journey, in my space, that have worked and done this stuff for a long time. But I'm only learning about it now. And I'm really grateful for it. So maybe if you feel called to learn deeper about your own layers and layers and layers, of generational layers, your trauma, your baggage, like, where does your trauma come from? Where does your baggage come from? Where does your hardship come from? Where does your blame come from? Where does your shame come from? Where does your anger come from? Where do all the layers of emotions and shit and pain come from? If you want to learn more about the layers of all the shit that goes on in inside yourself, in your life, etc., then maybe it's time to send me a message. Maybe it's time to come and learn with me, because this shit is fucking powerful, and I feel so at peace and so in release and so in heal within understanding the different layers of like where this genital herpes has come from in a spirit level, in a internal created space, through emotions like your frustration, your abandonment, your rejection, and all of those things. So my one-on-one program is open for another week and a half, and then we're going to be closing the doors. 12 weeks. big vulnerable dives into this space. 12 weeks one-on-one, and you come and work with me, intuitive healing, mindset coaching, transformation stuff, a lot of deep uncovering of some confronting or quite hard, intense emotions through this program, but it's fucking worth it. You get out the other side when you start to roll this ball and come through it. So if this makes sense to you, if you want to dive deeper into understanding where your trauma, your baggage, your emotions, all of the things come from, and understanding them on a deeper level so that you can release them and be free of them, then send me a private message. Let's enroll you. If you've got any questions, send me a message. Open book, open arms, open ears to listen. We'll be closing the doors in a week and a half. Come and learn about yourself and the different layers around you that have created physical ailments or mental fuckery, I want to say, because that was the space that I was in. And you know, we all have those days of mental fuckery in some way or form. When we bring awareness to this stuff, it unstrangles ourself in a way or form, and it is something real special. I love you all, and have a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. Thank you for holding space for me and being here to listen and to dig a little deeper. Love yous. Bye-bye.